live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.
Benny Ricciardi is here to break down the day's betting board for you.
Let's go, Jerry. Go!
Taking a first look at the day's bets, it's time for the FTN Betting Show. Welcome to the FTN Bets Cast for Friday, May 13th here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our friends over at Sleeper. Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform today with millions of players. And now you could win on Sleeper by playing in their new over-under game. It's super simple. First, in any sport, you're going to choose two or more players that you like and pick whether they're going to go over or under their listed total. So, for example, the NBA tonight, we'd be looking at things like the number of points a player is going to score, the number of three-pointers they're going to make, the number of steals, the number of assists, the number of rebounds. Once you pick which ones you want to go over or under, then you're going to choose an amount of money you want to enter into the contest. If you pick correctly, you can win anywhere from 2 times your money all the way up to 20 times your money if you pick 5 out of 5 and get them all correct. The main reason why I'm excited about the over-under game on Sleeper, though, is that it's the only app where you can join with your buddies and play together. It has a built-in group chat where I can see what you're playing, you can see what I'm playing. We could all see what the guy who's won 3 days in a row in our league has played. And then this way we could all follow along and play the same things together. It's insanely fun when everybody in the group is sweating the same things and trying to get the same things to happen so that we could all win. So stop what you're doing right now and download the Sleeper app to play their new over-under game and have some fun with your friends, make some money in the process. On your mobile phone, you can join our listener group on Sleeper by going to sleeper.com/FTNBets, and Sleeper will automatically match your first deposit up to $100. Again, sleeper.com/FTNBets, and you'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. There are terms and conditions that apply, so make sure you see Sleeper's terms of use to get all those details. Today may be one of the last days that we have 2 NBA games going on at the same time. So this is a big day for us here, especially over on Sleeper, where we're trying to pick, maybe one thing from one game and one thing for another game to put together for our contest entries. The first game that we're going to talk about here is going to be the Boston Celtics taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. This series is 3-2 in Milwaukee's favor after Milwaukee had a furious comeback in Game 5 in the fourth quarter to wind up winning at Boston. Now, home teams in the series have not done very well. The home team has won only 2 of the 5 games that have played so far, which really doesn't hold all that well for Milwaukee. Although, again, home court advantage is a real thing, and I did factor that in when I was making my numbers for this game as well. These 2 teams have been very evenly matched on the season. Going into that last game, they were tied 4-4 on the season. They went 2-2 against each other in the regular season, and they were 2-2 against each other in the playoffs going into that last game. Like I said, Boston was up pretty big going into the fourth quarter. I think it might have even been double digits. And furious comeback for the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee winds up winning that game by 3 to take a 3-2 series lead and come back home here to Milwaukee. So let's see, when we're looking at the number in this game, this one is pretty standard across the board. Everybody has this as a 1.5 point spread at -110. So if you want to play an over, if you want to play Milwaukee, you can get Milwaukee -1.5. You want to play the Celtics, you can get the Celtics +1.5. And you can pretty much get that on every single book that's out there. The only one that's slightly different, Wynn has this at -108. I honestly think they just do that because they want to show up first in any of these screeners that are showing all the different books out there. But like I said, everything else has this at -110. You can get Milwaukee a few basis points cheaper on Wynn at -108. If you want to play the Boston side, you could basically go to every book, DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, Caesars, PointsBet, Unibet, Sugar House, Bet Rivers, all have this at +1.5, -110 on the Boston Celtics side. I mean, if I have to choose one of these sides here, I think I do want to go with Milwaukee, the favorite at home, -1.5 here. But again, this series especially, has just been so evenly matched, so back and forth, road teams winning 3 of the 5 games already. It's not really something that I have a ton of faith in, but if I have to pick a side, I'm going to take Milwaukee -1.5 here rather than take the Boston Celtics. Next thing we can talk about here, let's talk about the total. So the total opened at 211.5. Right now you could play an over as cheap as 210.5 is the lowest number there, -110 on Caesars. If you want to play an under, BetMGM has this still at that 211.5 that it opened at. So you can play the under 211.5 on BetMGM at -110. It has come down a little bit, but I mean, we're talking like half a point to a point on most of these sites. So, not really a massive move in either direction. So far in the playoffs, it's been interesting, right? We've seen the totals kind of rise as the series has gone on. The first game was 190 points. The second game was 195. The third game was 204. And then we had 224 and 217 in the last two games. During the regular season, this was a very high scoring series. And the 4 games they played in the regular season, the lowest total was 220 points. The other ones were 230, 235, and 248. So, I mean, I'm looking at the over 210.5 here at -110 on Caesars as being a pretty good bet in this situation. Like I said, the last 2 games we've seen a lot more points scored, 227 and 217. All 4 games during the regular season were high. The only 3 games that went under these numbers were the first 3 games of the series. And like I said, the series has been trending higher scoring as we've gone on here. So I do think that the over 210.5 is worth a look here today. That's going to be one that I put in on Caesars at -110 in the bet tracker over at FTNBets. We do have a bunch of player prop over unders that I'm interested in here today. Honestly, though, they're all on the Milwaukee side. I think the Boston numbers are where they should be. Jason Tatum is at like 29 points. That's a good number for Tatum. Jaylen Brown's at like 23. Can he go over? Yeah, but he could also go under. I think that's a very good number for Jaylen Brown. I don't want to really trust guys like Al Horford, who's been, 30 points one game, 8 points the next game. The volatility in what he's been doing right now is not something I want to try to figure out, is this going to be a big Horford game or not? Same thing with a guy like Marcus Smart. I know Marcus Smart has scored well in the last couple games, but I don't look at Marcus Smart as a big time scorer. So I don't really want to put a lot of faith into that. But there are a couple things on the Milwaukee side that I like, especially in the scoring. Now, again, I like the over in this game. And because I like the over in this game, I have a bunch of these guys that are projected to go over their totals. The one I like the most is going to be Giannis here. 33.5 is a massive number. I 100% understand that. But it's only at a -110 over on DraftKings. So, it's not like this is a number that's hard for him to reach. I mean, the last 4 games, this is a guy who's taken 27, 30, 32, and 27 field goal attempts. He's averaging over 10 free throw attempts per game as well. Well, now, again, he doesn't shoot very well from the free throw line, but you're still talking 5 or 6 points there from the free throws that he's getting. And then you got to get, 27, 28 points out of a guy who's taken, averaging about 29 field goal attempts per game in the last 4 here. The last 3 games, he scored 42, 34, and 40 points. So, again, when you see that 33.5 number there, I mean, he's gone over it in 3 of the last 5 games here. He's taking a massive number of shots. Like, it's not crazy when you look at it. When you look at 33.5, everyone's first reaction is, oh, my God, that's way too many points. But then when you look at how he's actually been playing and you look at the numbers there, I mean, listen, Giannis is basically taking the ball and just going from the top of the key and trying to go downhill and get to the basket as often as he can. And honestly, there's not a lot that the Celtics have been able to do to stop him. You definitely can't stop him with one guy. A lot of times you can't even stop him with 2 guys. And even if he does there, he's taken shots before where he's missed a shot and then just kind of jumped over everybody, got the rebound and dunked it home and put it back there. So this is a guy that is just, I mean, right now the Celtics don't have an answer for him in the last 3 games. I mean, I went over the numbers with you guys. The guy's 116 points in the last 3 games in the playoffs with everybody concentrating on him, without his number 2 scorer in there for him. I mean, there's really not much more you can say. He's one of the most unstoppable players in the NBA. Giannis, over 33.5 points, -110. I actually like this on the sleeper app as well, even though it's a little bit lower than the odds that I'm usually looking for. I just have a lot of faith in Giannis continuing to, dominate the ball and take as many shots as he can here. Couple other guys that I'm interested in here too. I like Drew Holiday over 21.5. I would play this one on the sports books though. You can get this at even money on DraftKings, Unibet, or Sugar House. Field goal attempts in this series for Drew Holiday, no less than 20 field goals in any game this series. He's averaging over 40 minutes a game. He's averaging over 23 field goal attempts per game, and he's averaging over 22 points a game, 22 being what we need to get him here. So I really like Drew Holiday as well. Again, even money on DraftKings. I like this one quite a bit too. We're going to go back with our boy Pat Connaughton. They were a little slow to release the Pat Connaughton props last game, but they did finally put it up. I know a couple guys in our chat got in on it. this is one that my boy Marshall has been playing almost every day and has been doing pretty well for us. The last 4 games, Pat Connaughton has had at least 11 points or more. His prop has been around 9.5, 10.5 in all those games, so he's cashed on it here. You can get the over 10.5 today at minus 105 on Caesars. And the thing that gives me a lot of faith here, it's not like this guy's taking a ton of shots, but again, to get to 11.5 points, we don't really need a ton of shots out of him, but we do want to make sure that the minutes are safe. And after playing in the 20s in the first couple of games of the series, the last 3 games of the series, Pat Connaughton has seen 30 or more minutes in each of those games. That's what gives me the faith that he's going to be out there on the floor enough to get to the 11.5 points here. So minus 105 on Caesars for Pat Connaughton, another one that I'm looking at here today. And then the last one that I'm looking at is going to be Bobby Portis over 11.5 points. Minus 110 on FanDuel for him. He's gone over 11.5 in 3 of 5 games this series. But the important thing for me is the way he played in the fourth quarter. You know, Brook Lopez was on the bench in the fourth quarter, and they stuck with Bobby Portis. And Portis basically had some big shots. I think he knocked down a 3, had a bunch of big rebounds. I think he had a putback or 2 as well. You know, the coaches showed a lot of faith in him, and Portis, you know, rewarded that faith with a really, really good game in that last one there. You can get this at minus 110 on FanDuel right now. I'm assuming that he's going to, you know, play a few more minutes here this game after the way he played in the last game there. So that's why I like this one. If I have to rank these, here's the way I'm going to do it. I think Giannis is my favorite one, over 33.5. Pat Connaughton second, over 10.5. Drew Holiday over 21.5, and then Bobby Portis over 11.5. And really the reason why is, you know, Portis, I think, is going to get those minutes, but there is also a situation where Brook Lopez is playing well and Portis finds himself playing only like 22, 20 minutes today, which would be tough for him to get over this number, even though he is a high volume scorer when he's out there on the floor. The Giannis one, though, is the one I feel the safest about because, again, if the guy's taking 30 shots a game and 10 free throws a game, he's giving himself the possibility to score, you know, 70 plus points if you don't even include the couple threes that he chucks up every game. So for him to get over 34, I don't think is a massive ask, especially because a lot of those shots tend to be pretty close to the basket. It's not like he's taking 15 or 20 jump shots here. I mean, most of his shots are driving through the lane, trying to kind of finish and contort his body one way or another. That's where he picks up a lot of fouls, and it's also where he's able to finish down there by the rim. So I like Giannis the best of all these. That's going to be my play for this game on the sleeper app. Oh, I did want to mention as well, 2 things that I wanted to mention as well. Robert Williams for the Boston Celtics is still listed as questionable here. Again, he's played a couple games early in the series, sat a couple games here. So, you know, we'll have to wait and see on that. I didn't play any Horford props today, but if you're going to play a Horford prop, just keep an eye on that because if Williams is in, you know, Horford might see a few less minutes here. Now, again, not a lot less minutes, maybe 3 or 4 less minutes, but, you know, again, anything below that is going to obviously affect his ability to get over or under whatever that listed total is. And again, one of those reasons why I didn't really like anything on the Boston side. I saw something interesting today that Chris Middleton is upgraded to questionable. I would still think he does not play in this game whenever a guy's been out for a couple games until I actually see him out there on the floor or I get definitive evidence that he's going to play. I don't put him into my analysis until that happens. If that happens, well, hey, like I said, I think I would like the, you know, Milwaukee minus 1.5 anyway. I'd probably like it a little more if Chris Middleton plays, assuming Chris Middleton is going to play anywhere near, you know, what we have come accustomed to seeing Chris Middleton do. I don't know whether or not he's going to do that. It would also have me double thinking some of these overs that I bet on some of these other guys with their points. One of the reasons why I like all these other guys over for their points is because, again, they do have to make up for what they lost with Chris Middleton. If Chris Middleton does happen to play here today, though, that's going to affect all these other guys. You know, Pat Connaughton and Bobby Portis would be the 2 I would especially think it affects. But again, even guys like Drew and Giannis didn't take as many shots in the regular season when Chris Middleton was there. So again, keep an eye on it. See if we get any more news today. I kind of doubt that he plays, but the fact that they upgraded him to questionable is at the very least something we have to discuss. So now let's move on and talk about the second game here. The second game is going to be the Memphis Grizzlies taking on the Golden State Warriors. Warriors are up 3-2 in this one, although Memphis just blew them off the floor in the last game there. So, you know, the Warriors have a sour taste in their mouth, and Memphis is riding high right now, thinking that even without Ja, they can come back and win this series. Ja Morant does remain out for the Memphis Grizzlies. Tyus Jones has played great in his absence. So, you know, again, I think it's a downgrade. But remember, without Ja this year, this team is still 21-6. That's a great record. That's a record that would have had them as one of the top seeds in the playoffs, even if John Morant was never on this team. So, they have enough depth to kind of make up for it. Do I think they're better off without John? No, I don't think they're better off with him. But I also don't think that they're as worse off as some people think without him. So we'll just keep that in mind when you're going through everything. On the Golden State side, they are dropping some wing players here. I mean, Gary Payton went down. I think it was game 2 or game 3. That hard drive to the basket where he landed awkwardly on his arm. He's going to be out, I think, at least the rest of the series, if not longer here. And then Otto Porter Jr. joined him last game. Porter had started, I think it was the second quarter when he went down and went out with an injury. That's why we saw like extra minutes for guys like Jonathan Kuminga and, Nemanja Bjelica. These guys played a lot more minutes in the second half of that game. Although, again, the game also turned into a blowout. So it is what it is. But I think that those guys are going to be in line for more minutes here today as well if Otto Porter can't play. Because remember, you're going to be without Otto Porter and you're going to be without Gary Payton. That's 2 guys that play that forward role for this team. So they're going to have to make up for that one way or another. So let's see here. Golden State opened this game at 8.5. Now, if you remember, we talked about this the other day. I like the Memphis plus 10.5 the last time they played in Golden State, and they were able to cover that number. It was a couple points too high. It's come down to 8.5 here, which I think is around where it should be. I have it at 7.5 personally, but, again, a little bit of value here, but not too far off. And if you look in the market, you've actually seen the market come a little closer down to my number from where it opened at 8.5. Right now, you can get Golden State at -8 at a -110 on Caesars, DraftKings, and FanDuel. So, the -8 is the number that's kind of the more prevailing number in the market right now. And again, a little bit closer to my 7.5, a little bit down from the 8.5 at the open. If you want to play Memphis, there is still a plus 8.5 out there on MGM at -110. That would be the way to go over there on that side. I actually didn't touch either side in this game, but if you ask me where I'm going to lean, my lean would probably be with Memphis at that plus 8.5. MGM -110, where you can go and get that one. The next thing I want to talk about here is going to be the total. So the total in this game opened at 219.5, actually dropped a little bit. You could play an over 217.5 on DraftKings, FanDuel, or Caesars right now, -110 on that number. If you want to play the under 217.5 on PointsBet, best place to play the under there, -110 on PointsBet, and Unibet is where the 217.5 number is. I actually like the over in this game. So one of the things that you noticed if you watched the last game is that Memphis decided to go way up in pace, and it worked out very well for them. I think they finished with 140-something points in that game. I don't think they're going to get to 140 again, but I do think that the strategy that they employed there is a strategy that they're going to roll out. They were getting the ball out of the net, pushing it up the floor. It reminded me of like that North Carolina, Kansas kind of style back in the day when Roy Williams was coaching them, where it was like, hey, we know we got better athletes and more depth, and we're just going to make this game, as quick as we can, get as many possessions as we can, because we feel that we're the team that's going to be able to score more often and stop you more often. And at the end of the game, we're going to win by a bunch of points. And that's exactly what happened in the last game for Memphis. So I think Memphis is going to stick with that same strategy since it worked so well in the last game here. I think they're going to play up tempo. I think they're going to play fast. And because of that, I think over 217.5, DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars at -110 is the way I want to play this game. So I have a bet on the over here today that I'm going to be putting in the bet tracker over at FTN Bets. And remember, if you guys are interested, you can get over to FTN Bets right now. You get all the charts, all the graphs, all the analysis, all the picks from all of our experts in not only NBA, but NHL, MMA, MLB, NFL. Once that starts rolling around, we should have some props coming out a little bit later on today. Some over under win totals based on the schedule that was released yesterday. So lots of things going on over there at FTN Bets right now. And here's a little trick for you guys. Use promo code Benny, BENNY, and you can save 20% off on any package at FTN Bets, as well as FTN Fantasy or FTN Daily, if you're looking to get in onto those sides of the market. So now let's talk about the player props for this game here. There are 2 that I am interested in. The one I like the most for the sleeper app is going to be Draymond Green rebounds. A lot of you guys know we played this one last game and we missed by half a rebound, but I don't feel like that was a bad bet, because part of the reason why we missed by half a rebound Draymond Green only played 22 minutes because, basically the game turned into a massive blowout. In the fourth quarter, I think at one point they might have been up 40. I know they were up 30 something for a while. They might have been up 40 at one point in the fourth quarter there. So, when you look at a team losing by 40, obviously their starters are not going to play that many minutes. Draymond Green, though, in 2 games in this series has double-digit rebounds. He's averaging over 7.5 rebounds for the series as well. And again, if he didn't play 22 minutes last game, he probably would have been over this. You look at the sports books now, the cheapest price you can find Draymond over 7.5 rebounds is minus 124 on FanDuel. Everywhere else, it's minus 134 to minus 145. So, again, we're looking at one of those things that's a 57, 58% chance to likely happen here. So I like that Draymond Green over 7.5. Not as big a fan of playing it on the sports book, but I love the over 7.5 on the sleeper app. The other guy that I'm looking at here is Tyus Jones, a guy that I have been very high on. Told you guys in the first game when he took over for Ja, like, hey, this is a guy that I think can score. Last game, we took the over on his points and we hit it there. So I'm going right back to that well. Tyus Jones over 16.5 points here today. He had 19 and 21 as a starter in the last 2 games since the Ja injury there. He's averaging 15 field goal attempts per game. He scored 21 points in like 24 minutes last game. Again, he was one of the guys that was really pushing that pace and attacking. And again, he didn't even play the minutes that we expected from him. The games that Ja missed during the season, he played 30 minutes. So he played, 22 or 24 in the last game. He played 41 in the first game. So he's averaging right around that 30 minutes there. But I actually think he's going to play even more today. I think if this game stays close, you're going to get like 32 to 35 minutes out of Tyus Jones. And again, this is a guy that without Ja, 30 minutes was averaging over 12 points during the regular season. If they're going to be playing fast and he's going to be playing a few more minutes, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask him to get over that 16.5 here. The number's getting a little high. I would not chase it beyond 16.5 here. I also wouldn't chase it if you have to pay like minus 125 or minus 130 to get this number, but you can still find this right now. And this is one of the reasons why I like it too. There is a massive difference between what the books are offering this number at. BetMGM has it at minus 115. Unibet has it at plus 110. I will definitely take Tyus Jones over 16.5 points for plus 110 here. I like this one a lot more on the sports books at that plus 110 payout than I would taking it on the sleeper app. On the sleeper app, I want the things that have implied probability 57, 58%, if not higher. So my favorite play on the sleeper app will still be Draymond Green over 7.5 rebounds. But my favorite play on the sports books here is going to be Tyus Jones plus 110 on Unibet. So let's talk about today and the sleeper app. You guys know, you heard it in the start. You can get down to the description right below here. Sleeper.com/FTNBets. Get you into our sleeper group. Also get you that $100 deposit match bonus up to 100% of what you put in there, up to $100. I always tell everybody, take full advantage of these matches. If they're giving you a 100% match up to $100, if you can afford it, put the $100 in there, get the full bonus. You have $200 to play with. The reason why I like this here, I like Giannis over 33.5 points in the first game. So I'm taking the over on that one on the sleeper app. And then I'm taking Draymond Green over 7.5 rebounds here. You put those two things together. If they both hit, you're going to get a payout. If you put that full $200 on it, you're going to get a payout of $600. Now, again, you put $100 out of pocket in, you're going to get $600 as a win there. That's plus 500 odds that you're getting there. You're not going to get that on any of the sports books right now. If you try to parlay these two things together for the same $100 on one of the sports books right now, you're going to get a payout of like plus $330, $340. Again, for the exact same bet, you could get a payout of $600 using the sleeper app. So get down into that description, click on that link right there, and come join us and have some fun. So there you go. That's going to wrap it up for today's edition of the FTN Betscast here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our good friends at Sleeper. Good luck today, everybody.
Live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.